This is my first time in Houston, so this is exciting. And I had no, I mean, it was amazing driving in yesterday, or my cab or Uber coming in, and like, all these hospitals are all right here? I mean, like my old job was right near the medical centers in Boston, like Longwood. Everyone's like, ooh, Longwood has we're not even close. It's really spectacular. So let me check my time. So I always think these are interesting. I end up speaking a lot in environments where everyone else in the audience knows a lot more about this space than I do. I'm coming in from this other perspective of how to use data, how to use real-world data, in this case, how to use real-world data for AI. For me, it's all about data and appropriate uses. I'm gonna talk about 3 things today. I'm really gonna talk a little bit about what I'll define as real-world data. I'm gonna describe the company that I work at now, which is TriNetX, which is a large federated network of real-world data around the world, and why we exist and what we do. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about data and AI and kind of what keeps me up at night on the good, the bad, the ugly kinds of scariness, all on both sides. So that will be the frame. The overall frame is collaboration. I've spent my whole career trying to get people to work together. Whether there are people in Houston or people in Texas, we tried to create a Massachusetts network for public health surveillance. In this space, you have to work together in order to really be impactful. So this is me. These are my opinions, and we'll see what I say. Sorry. So I usually start with this slide. I start almost all my talks now with this slide. This paper's 50 years old. 50 years old in December. It's a real-world data paper. That term didn't exist then. I actually don't know what term they were using. They probably weren't even using observational research at that point. It was using Medicare data. This is to say that it's really important that all the kind of novel, really valuable kind of new technologies that have been developed in the last 5 and 10 and 15 years recognize that the data we're trying to use has been used for a long time, and there are people who know about that. So there are well-established methods to use these data. There's well-established understanding of bias in the data and how to deal with it. So who's been using the data for 50 years? Health economists, health policymakers, certainly lots of federal agencies, pharmacoepidemiologists. When I go to AMIA, I used to go to AMIA. I pretty much go to AMIA meetings every year, medical informatics meeting, and I'd often see folks make mistakes that I made 20 years ago. And discovering the same things that have been discovered by health economists a long time ago, like, oh, the data are really messy. Yeah. We have to learn from all of that as we go. But the broad message is really, we have to figure out how to use real data. It's no longer a choice. I've been around, I guess, long enough to recognize like, there was debate, should we use it, should we not use it, is it too messy? That's not really the debate anymore. The debate is the data exists. The only question is how to use it and how to use it best. So what's changed? Well, 50 years ago, you couldn't run any of the models that you guys might be building. It would take too long. The computers couldn't handle it, right? I mean, the data now is readily available. It's not that hard to get your hands on it. And computers are better. We can run things. I mean, even when I was working at FDA, there were things that we would execute. There's still things that took a week to run, but they might have been not possible to run 15 years ago, right? So there are these tailwinds for using real-world data. I'll get to in a sec. So what do I mean by real-world data? The simplest way to think about it is anytime it's data collected outside of an experimental setting or data collected as part of routine healthcare. Anytime a person sees a doc, there's an electronic record. When that doc bills an insurance company, there's an electronic record. When someone is born, you go into a birth registry at the state. When you're immunized, you go to the immunization registry in the state, cancer registries in the state, and death registries in the state. Those are all real-world data as well. Actually, Texas is pretty good registries. Is my memory relatively sophisticated? But the data going in there doesn't mean it's easy to get them out of there. So let's be clear about that. But there's lots of real-world data around. Real-world evidence requires, for you to generate evidence from that data, it requires a team. Just think team sport, think collaboration. You have to understand the methods, you have to understand the data, you have to understand intended uses. It's hard to generate robust evidence from that data, but that's our jobs. That's what we're trying to think through. So this is what I've been doing for 20 years, is basically asking and trying to answer this question, which is matching your question to the data, to the method, to the intended use. There's probably other ways to mush that around, but if you're trying to understand how many women take this drug during pregnancy, I just want to know if it's 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000. Is it a lot or a little? Is it 2% or 20%? But you can do that really quickly. If you want to know the outcome of that, that's much harder to do. But it also depends on your intended use. That's the intended use part. So different data sources have different characteristics. There are insurance claims data that they are really useful for some things, not for others. Electronic health record data, which is generally pretty new in this space, considering the space is 50 years old, has different characteristics. Some good, some bad. But you just have to know it. It's not that there's high or low quality. It's just you have to understand the characteristics of the data in order to use it appropriately. So I mentioned tailwinds. These are just federal. This is FDA. This is kind of FDA stuff. And EMA is European Medicines Agency. So in this space, when the government, when a regulator like FDA or the EMA says, you guys should be using real-world data to help support whatever. Well, who pays attention? Pharma pays attention. Well, when pharma pays attention, who pays attention? Investors and small companies start to pop up because all of a sudden you can use these kinds of data in a regulatory space. So that's the tailwinds I'm talking about. And there's so many guidances. There's actually, I think it was a recent guidance, is the FDA's recent guidance on AI. They have no idea what to do with AI. I mean, absolutely none. The current commissioner is really, the current commissioner knows this space really well, but they still have, it's going to be a mess. Because I don't think there's a really good answer, is the problem. It's just there's not a good match. I'm putting this example and one more. I just put this up here to get you thinking a little about the space. I like this one. It's probably, did I call it external control arm? So single arm trial, really rare disease in kids. This product was approved using a real world data comparator. It was a natural history study. So the blue is the natural history study. I just like the colors, and this just seems so clear. Patients with this condition don't generally get better over time. Patients treated with this product tended to get better, drug approved. So that's an external control arm. Think about oncology. Lots of single arm trials in oncology. Well, compared to what? Approved compared to what? Works compared to what? And if you have to try to do a placebo arm or best available therapy, they take long. Sometimes it's unethical. There's all sorts of scenarios where single arm trials are actually going to be more and more important, but FDA will continue to say compared to what. So you need an example. I like this one too. This was done from my colleagues. This was done by colleagues at Harvard and Hospital Corporation of America, a huge hospital system. They randomized 60 hospitals. So the randomization was the hospital, not the patient. They were randomized to 3 different ICU infection mediation strategies, I suppose. I'm not a doc. And they used the data from the ICU to see which strategy worked. They found out which worked. They published it. The Hospital Corporation, HCA, now uses that strategy for ICUs. And they did a whole bunch of follow-on studies here as well. It's just a nice use. Think about all the hospitals you have within a mile of here. randomize them. You can randomize hospitals. It's really complicated to get through the IRB cycles for things like that, but we did it 10 years ago. It'll be easier now. So I want to just say a word about collaboration. I always remember, this is one of my, my old boss, kind of used to just say, you have to be willing to do someone else's research. And he's right. You kind of have to be willing to do someone else's research. No one can do this work alone. So the reason we think we institutions have to collaborate is even how amazing it is in the mile around here. And did I read, is this the biggest medical center in the world? It's not big enough to do rare disease, rare outcomes, really subtle cohorts. If you want to do, I think there was digital twin, this talk earlier. You want really precise digital twins, you need a lot of people to start with to find that really precise match. So those are the things that kind of lead you to needing collaboration across institutions. Collaboration is really scary. No one wants to share data. Sharing data, sending data from A to B is really scary. No one wants to do it. Patient privacy, confidentiality, there's a lot of reasons. But sharing information is less scary. And what do I mean by that? You can share a count of the number of patients that look like this that had a heart attack, or you can share risk sets. There's a whole methodology. I actually saw a post, there was a poster on federated learning over there. There are ways to not have to share the raw data, but still get robust information. And that's led to all these networks. So these are just networks that I happen to work in. There's a lot of these distributed networks. These are networks where the data don't move, information moves. And that leads me to, I think I did this right, that leads me to TriNetX, which is, I guess I got bored doing networks in the US, so I had to go join a global federated network of health systems. So I want to take a second to explain kind of where I am, and I think it's a good use case. So TriNetX is this global, a global federated network of hospital systems. I always forget the numbers, so I have to go. Over 200 sites, 30 countries. It's a federated network. Our systems, our partners keep their data behind their firewalls. We've built a very expensive platform that lays on top of that enables point-and-click querying across that network and iterative querying. It is real-time iterative querying across the globe. When I joined, I was actually pretty sure that wasn't true. I was like, there's no way, because I worked in the space for a really long time. And fast was a week, was like light speed. And this is seconds. So there's a lot of technology behind it. So you can see we've got a bunch of partners all over the world on the top. And then we've got our other partners, which is essentially the folks who write checks for this network. I'll tell you why in a sec, to use that data, but never touch it. They never touch it. They just get answers from it. That's the key. We work a lot with CTSAs. You can imagine in the US, academic medical centers are our core network or our core partners. So lots of CTSAs. I think we have 24, 25, 26 NCI Cancers of Excellence in that network, in that space. But you can imagine they have the infrastructure and the thinking to be able to handle a network like this. So why? So this is the basic use case for TriNetX was clinical trials. If you've done clinical trials, you know that they almost never enroll, never enroll fully, they don't enroll in time, they're always late, they always cost too much money. So can you use real-world data to improve clinical trial design? I forgot our three. We have design, site selection, and patient selection. Thanks. So design is actually it is very common to design a trial that is absolutely beautiful where 0 people exist on Earth that meet those criteria. Literally 0. And it's a huge waste of time and money to go try to find those people. You realize after 6 months and a lot of money, you found no one. And then you have to modify that. You have to amend the trial, change the inclusion exclusion, and then it's a cycle. That is a horrible waste of time, of money, and it harms patients. It's a really big problem. But together, our hospital systems in this network have solved that problem, at least taken big chunks out of it by reducing that time and designing those trials better. I wish NIH would use it, use real-world data to do the same thing. We're talking. but it's a harder thing to do. But this is why. That was the core use case. But in order to create that network and do this use case, we have to have partnerships with hospital systems. So what's the deal? Or how do you think about these relationships and the benefits? Our hospital systems get to query their own data, they get access to their own data, they get access to the network, and they can do research together. They can partner together, actually just partner together technically, meaning like we will allow our network technology to be used to join and create sub-networks. We create a pediatric network, and to get trial opportunities. So the trial opportunity comes when one of our funders says, it looks like I always use University of Pennsylvania because I'm from Philly, it looks like you have 150 patients that meet our criteria. Do you want to do a trial with us? Because that's a lot of patients considering this trial. And Penn says, that sounds great. And Penn can then actually run the query to find those exact patients. The drug company doesn't know who those patients are. They don't care. And it doesn't even matter if it's 120 or 130. It's just, that's a lot more than the others. That's a lot of people for this trial. Do you want to partner with us? And then they go on and partner, and we just cheer them on. That's just a cheer. We cheer them on. That's just success. So that's kind of how our network works. We work a lot with we try to collaborate, and this is, maybe just think of it that way. There's the National COVID Consortium, N3C, so our partners want to be part of N3C because NIH wants it, and the CTSAs are all kind of pushing for everyone to participate in this. So we made it easier for our partners to participate by doing a lot of the basically the data manipulation and conversions to be able to share with N3C. I think we're the largest overall data contributor to N3C. I think that might be true. I'm looking for someone I know in the audience to nod, but it's really close to true. How's that? And I mentioned this, the pediatrics network. So pediatric hospitals and pediatricians need to collaborate. You can think there's a lot of reasons that pediatricians collaborate. So we created a pediatrics network using our technology. The same way we have a global network or a USA network, there's a pediatrics network. There could be a Houston network. There could be a Texas network. If you choose to collaborate, if you want to collaborate and you're part of TriNetX, you can use our pipes, basically. You can use our pipes and use our technology. You guys just have to agree on what your collaboration looks like. That's governance with you. But those are the things I've been spending a lot of my time on as the chief scientist, is thinking about how to get our partners to work together. There's an example now of partners in the room working together on a CTSA application. Like, well, if the two hospitals work together, we're a little bit bigger and we can do more interesting things. We love it. We publish an awful lot, and that we was a very royal we. Our hospital systems publish a lot. I think there's more than 500 publications. Almost all of them are from our hospital partners, because their faculty get access to the data. They can publish using their own data, kind of point and click. It just makes it a little easier, but they can also get access to all of the data in the US or the global, however it works. And now they've got not just their population, but an enormous population to actually do some research. And there are a lot of COVID publications, and these were done all over the world. So actually our pharma customers actually don't really publish all that much. They're thinking about their clinical trials. We publish because we think it's important to publish. It's our hospital systems want to publish. I've been pushing our systems, our hospital partners, to use the data with their students. You got to log in. I went to Penn. I'm like, come on, you got pharmacoepi students. That's my space. I know pharmacoepi. I'm like, have them use it. It's hard for students to get access to actual data. For years, everyone came out in my space and like, hey, I did a study my research study was in the nurses' health study. Well, yeah, it's because you can just download the data. Like, it was just downloaded data, but that's much easier to use than like complicated real-world data sets. So there's a way of doing that, just getting access there. So now I'm coming to there are incredible opportunities in using real-world data in AI. This is an AI conference. I'm talking about data and collaborations, but I think you need that in order to actually do the fun stuff, which is like discovering something new. This is one of our examples. There's hundreds of examples of just AI in this space. I think when I say AI, I think it's novel methods. Could be large language model, it could be anything. This is my shorthand. So this is some partners at Beth Israel Deaconess and MIT built a predictive model for pancreatic cancer. Said, oh, that's great, it works at one hospital, I think maybe it was 2. I wonder if it works at 100 hospitals. So they came to us and we kind of worked with them to modify the model to work, and actually deployed that model. I think we deployed it globally. We can deploy it in the US, we can deploy it globally. If you come to us with a model, you have to figure out how does that model gonna work in this network, and we can send it, what I call under the covers, send it out through our network, and it will run all over the world. You gotta make sure it's appropriate to run all over the world. That's the hard work. We can get it to run all over the world and tag patients as this patient met the criteria with that model, or this patient is a 1.2, this patient's a 0.8. Whatever your model output is, you can do these things in a federated way. So that's collaboration and technology. And that's all done without sharing any person-level data. That's the idea. So what keeps me up? This will go a little faster. So I don't know, when I've been doing research for a really long time, and I only remember the bad things, which is, right, so it's like all the mistakes I've made. I guess that's what's valuable is you never remember that perfect study. You always remember the mistakes. So that's what is kind of what you see. My research has really been on like signal detection methodologies in drug safety, because that's my background is drug safety, and in data quality. And quality, I'm putting in quotes. Quality, you shouldn't really talk about data quality. You should talk about data characterization. Data is what it is. It's not good or bad quality. It just is. So what's the stuff that worries me is the data and the disconnect between the researchers and the data and understanding it. So there's a whole framework. There's a Kahn framework. This is Michael Kahn, who's Colorado, University of Colorado. He's a good guy. I was on all these papers, but I can't get my team to say the Kahn and Brown framework. It's this, just how do you think about understanding the data? Again, it really wasn't about quality. It's about understanding and characterizing. I've got a couple nice examples. HDL, I think. So this is, I don't know how many lines there are. It's 40 or 50 lines. It's a distribution of HDL in our network. This is TriNetX stuff. But as I was preparing for this, I realized this is actually a really great example of bias in data. The data aren't good. These data look beautiful. But it only represents people who got an AML, HDL, who actually had a test ordered and went and got it. So this isn't the population HDL level. This is the HDL distribution of patients who seek care, had a clinician say, you should have your HDL checked, and then went and got it checked. That can create a bias if you don't think about it in the kinds of research certainly that I do. I put these up for fun. These are from my old work with FDA. This is real. This is from 5 or 6 very sophisticated sites with very sophisticated EHRs. Those are all real results. Now, clinicians know what it all means. It doesn't matter. It's never going to harm a patient. But this is what the data look like, right? And now when you're working multiple sites, you got to deal with that. This is what the data look like. This is what the results units look like in these large networks. This, I'll say, do I have a couple minutes? Because we got to, okay. Because I don't know, these are these horrible things. This one, it's kind of funny. This is in PCORNet, where people were taking their data from, this is very standard. You take it from your EHR and you create a research data warehouse, and then someone else asks you to create a separate research data warehouse. And in that, we looked at the A1Cs across, 50 sites. And what we saw in the data were 0.07, 0.7, 7, 7.0, 70, 700. Clinicians know that all meant 7. It will never be changed. It will never be fixed in an EHR. But if you, and this is the mistake, if you write a piece of code that says, I want to find everyone with an A1C over 8, 70 is over 8. So, well, how did we find out? Because a huge number of people at one site were tagged as yes, we found them, and that it was just way different than every other site. Well, you go back. Why did that site make it 70 instead of 7.0? They wanted to save the decimal for space. They just go, oh, we strip out the decimal, it saves all the space. Right? So be careful about it. These are the fun be carefuls. I don't know why. I put this in just for fun, too. These are just different ways of misspelling positive and negative, but these are real from systems. So, language models might have trouble with that. They might not have trouble with that. I don't know what the number results mean for a pregnancy test. That's supposed to be positive or negative, but this is real. It's not that this is a lot. It's just this is what you see in the real world. I like to have this one because this is a nice one from the FDA work of INR values, good distribution. That's only 4 or 5 sites. So, I have 2 more things. I'm going to skip to the end of this. So this is PCORnet, bariatric surgery. So PCORI in the US funded this, big bariatric surgery study. We ended up with, I don't know, I'm not going to try to use a pointer. We started with, 100 million people, I think. Sorry, I keep going back and forth. 100 million, we found like almost 80,000 adults, and almost 1,000 kids, which is enormous for this. But then, I'm the only one that keeps pointing this out. The other authors are annoyed with me that I keep pointing this out. We lost a huge number of patients for bariatric surgery because they had no BMI recorded before and after their surgery. That can't possibly be true, right? But it wasn't in the standard field. There was either no weight recorded, or in the BMI field, there was no BMI recorded. It might have been in a note. It might have been somewhere else. If I cracked open the notes, I probably could have found it. But there were 80,000 notes. I'm not reading 80,000 notes. So a bunch of people had to get dropped out of that study. That just creates a methods problem, because now you're like, oh, there's people different than the other people. So we spend a lot of time thinking through, when we do this exclusion, what did it mean for the analysis? It still ended up being the largest study of bariatric surgeries, I think ever. And there's a bunch of papers on this. But it raises this question of how do you use the data appropriately, and then how do you test that you did? And we actually did pretty good approach. I thought our approach here was actually pretty good. I always start with that one slide, and I often end with this. Guillain-Barré in pregnancy. We found it, I don't know, it was 15 years ago. We found it. We were doing a study for CDC on vaccine safety. So vaccines sometimes lead to Guillain-Barré syndrome, vaccine safety, CDC study. And we signaled as this vaccine is causing Guillain-Barré syndrome. So it'll look like it. And it was all during pregnancy. Well, if that's true, that's a problem. Well, it wasn't true. We had to go look at notes to figure out why it wasn't true. Anyone guess? I'll give 10 seconds for a guess of how you could find Guillain-Barré syndrome, GBS, in pregnancy. Huh? Well done. Group B strep. So the doc was writing GBS. Someone in the office was like, I don't know what GBS means. It turns out it was actually someone new. Didn't know that doc's shorthand. Googled GBS, coded that person as Guillain-Barré syndrome. Of course, it doesn't change the care. They still got their group B strep test. But it's in the data, and it will always be there. And your model is not going to understand why, right? So it took us a long time to figure that one out. It turned out it was one site at one thing, and it was one doc. But you don't need a lot of Guillain-Barré syndrome to appear for it to be a problem. You expect none. So when you see 5, you're calling the CDC, right? I'll end here. I think the be humble is the most important thing for me. We really have to keep pushing buttons and using these data and really pushing hard. But it really is a team sport. So bring in, I can't imagine all the team members that are in the half mile here that together can do a lot of really important work that you can't do alone. So I'll leave it there. Questions at the panel?
I just have one more question. How does your company make money? What's the business? Angela. Because you guys are offering a lot of free support. At the end of the day, you guys have to keep existing.
Yeah, they keep mentioning that we're offering a lot of free stuff. I'm in the executive team. It comes up once a month. Yeah. So we sell access to that querying platform, this global querying platform, to pharma. So pharma pays, and we use that to fund ourselves and to support our partners. Because without our partners, we have no network, but without our funders, we have no network. We try to be this binding point. So we're a 10-year-old company. We might be the only profitable company in this entire health data space, startup company, really. But we go to pharma. Pharma, remember, if they can save, what we see of our pharma clients is if they can avoid an amendment to a trial, it might save them 6 months and $500,000 to $1 million. So there's value there in the network, and we spend all the money to make it easier for them. The nice benefit is everything that our pharma partners query, our hospital partners can query. I mean, we have that benefit, but that's the model. I haven't seen another model work.
Yeah. No, I haven't either. I've studied this space a lot. I think one thing that stands out to me is, okay, so part of the reason why I came here to speak today is because about every 18 months, a bunch of us get together and we're like, we need a data consortium. And because we all need to be sharing data. And then this last time, basically somebody introduced me to them, and I was like, this is a little bit easier than us trying to reinvent the wheel. And so it's not, but like, I just kind of feel like people should know this should exist because it seemed like, I'm imagining you guys help find a lot of institutions. You help a lot of them collaborate. They find each other.
Yeah. Look, we have got meetings with our organizations. We have a summit where we actually bring everyone together from all over the world. Actually, we bring our hospital systems come together from all over the world with our pharma clients, and they actually get to sit and talk about the value they're bringing to each other. It's an incredibly big investment, right? It was probably more than $100 million to build the whole technology and network, and it's expensive, but we continue to see value in it, and we continue to grow from both sides. Our hospital systems, we've got folks all over the world. We have two sales teams. We have a sales team that sells to pharma. Hey, we got this great stuff, and we have a team that goes to our hospital systems and say, come on in. Yeah. So we have two. It's a very odd business model because we have two customer bases, and we actually build a fair amount of the tools and querying capabilities we have are built based on feedback from our hospital systems, not from pharma.